All these companies are affected by the external environment, by the pandemic effect. Vision is something which comes from the company's ideology, from the mindset, saying that what it wishes to be in the future. Mission talks about what you want to achieve in the near run altogether. Good morning and welcome to the second session of Business Environment. And in this section, we are going to continue in terms of talking about the various factors of business environment and how those factors are actually coming into picture. Because in the last session, when we were talking about, we just touched upon the micro environment and how that micro environment is actually becoming a positive player in terms of conducting the business. Now, in this session, we will talk about the macro environment and its various factors that actually govern the situation. Now, moving forward, let's come to the macro environment of this situation. Now, when I talk about the macro environment, that means to say that when a firm operates in an economy and a society, there are factors in its environment that it has no control over. These are elements of its macro environment or its general external environment altogether. Now, which means to say that there are factors in which the macro environment actually comes into picture. Now, that is very, very important for each one of us to understand and to grow with. Now, if you look here, as I've talked about the political environment, the economic, socio-technological, and the ecological and physical environment. Now, we are talking about a situation which is governing on the external factors of the company. Now, these factors, the company does not have any control over them. Now, for example, if there is a natural disaster that happens, or there is going to be some riots, or there is going to be some outbreak, or there's going to be a pandemic situation as we have been facing in the last 6 months, these situations cannot be explained by the company in a random manner. So it becomes difficult for them to go ahead and explain themselves to the shareholders or to any people here, saying that how they are able to come up and how they are able to manage these kind of scenarios. But then when you start talking about, when you start moving about the situation altogether, it becomes even more easier for us to understand, to take forward and to go ahead in terms of the business, in terms of the environmental factors altogether. Now, what I would like to talk here, or what I would like to tell you about, is that when these elements are coming in from an external factor, the organization becomes even more cautious, the organization becomes even more tense, because the business environment, as I have told you, is such dynamic factor that it will start responding immediately to any kind of slightest variation that happens in its environment. To give you a very practical example that has been happening is that moment there was a news that broke out saying that there is a vaccine that is going to be found for coronavirus, automatically the markets, the business started showing a positive result saying that the vaccine is going to be out in few days and automatically the business is going to rebound back to the normal days. But once the vaccine got delayed and they were not able to produce the vaccine as per the promised date altogether, the market started going downwards. The company started showing a negative attitude altogether. Now, you can imagine the question here, for a vaccine, what has it got to a manufacturing company or to a textile company or to an IT company? But then all these companies are affected by the external environment, by the pandemic effect altogether. So even the smallest thing, as we are talking right away, the smallest thing, the smallest factor can create a huge amount of impact altogether. Moving forward, the vision statement, we are going to talk about a very, very interesting and an important factor called as the vision statement altogether. Now, what is a vision statement? A vision statement defines what position the company wishes to be in the future, which means to say, for example, the vision statement of Accenture is to become one of the world's leading company, bringing in innovations to improve the way the world works and lives. Now look at the ideology itself. For a great company like Accenture, which is into IT consulting altogether, has been in the position where they have been speaking about the growth factor, has been speaking about how to develop the innovations and make it even more stronger altogether. So vision is something which comes from the company's ideology, from the mindset, saying that what it wishes to be in the future. Now, if you look at Johnson & Johnson, for example, their ideology was to become a company, a leading company in baby care products. Now, if you look into the vision statement of Sun Pharmaceuticals, their vision is to be a company which provides quality chemicals in terms of drugs for the saving the mankind. When you look into the vision statement of companies like Indigo Airlines or Deccan Airways, all these kind of airlines, they have their own vision statement where they want to be the carrier of choice, where they want to make transportation and logistics as easy as possible for the common man. Now, like this, every company will have their own vision, own mission altogether. Vision gives the power to the company to foresee what is going to happen in the coming years. So when you start a company today, for example, you will wish that this company becomes someday at some position, it becomes something altogether. It becomes a meaningful purpose altogether. Now, if I have started a cement manufacturing company today, at one point of time, I want to become a name that is remembered by those millions of people across the country, so that I'm not just a cement manufacturer, but I become a part of the family. So the visionary thinking for every company is highly important. Why? Because without vision, we will not be able to propel ourselves forward. Without vision, we cannot be that company that thinks to grow, that thinks to make the availability of growth as accessible as possible. So vision is very, very important at any given point of time, at any given stage altogether. Without vision, we cannot become the companies, we cannot become the ideology factors altogether. So this is very, very important. Without vision, we are not going forward at all. Moving forward, the characteristics of a vision statement. What are the factors that drive a vision statement altogether? It's motivational. It must inspire the reader. That is very, very important. Why? Because let me just circle up this word motivation here. If you're writing a vision statement which is very simplistic, which does not have a great meaning, which does not sound great to the investor, to the reader, or to the people who are concerned, then it shows that you don't have any interest in running the company forward. So it is mandatory that when you write a vision statement, it has got a lot of purpose, it has got a lot of meaning, and it tries to inspire the reader. It tells the reader, it tells the person why this company wants to go forward. What is really driving this company? What is the enthusiastic need behind this company that is propelling this company to go forward, become a leader altogether? So that's where it has to be motivational and it has to inspire the reader as far as possible. Vision statement is always future based. Now, this is very, very important. I start a business today, it is working out well, fantastic. But what after 10 years or 20 years or even after 30 years? Will the business remain the same? Will the business be on the same mode of operation? That is quite questionable. So, as a business leader, as a person who's starting up the business needs to be having a futuristic thought process altogether. Let me again bring back the example of Reliance altogether. Reliance started as a company which was into polyester business, textiles. You might be possibly knowing about the brand called as Vimal altogether. That was the foremost leading brand in which the Reliance Group came into, followed by which they went into oil and petrochemicals business, and then they started moving into the areas of telecom. From there, they started moving into retail, then probably into capital, energy, so many factors. But what was the vision of Reliance? The vision of Reliance is to become a company that becomes a household name as far as possible. Their vision was futuristic in nature. Their vision was not something that they just run a company for today and close it tomorrow. They wanted to be a company which is able to create some brand value, which is able to create some thought process in the minds of people. So they were always cautious about this factor that they need to sustain in the business environment as long as possible, which will make the situation, which will make the growth even going forward. So vision statement always needs to be future based as far as possible. Followed by must be a reflection of company's value and their culture. What is the nature of your company? What type of culture do you follow in your company? When you talk about a company like Google or Yahoo or Microsoft or Apple, all these companies are the tech-dominated companies. They are all known for their open culture, the way they have created an atmosphere for working of their employees and how they practice it with their micro environment also. Now, why that is important? When people say that I'm interested to work for Google or for Microsoft or for Yahoo, these are all companies which did not just create a futuristic environment in terms of workplace, but also they have certain practices that is quite innovative. Their culture looks completely different from a traditional organization. Their culture is open, it's friendly, it practices policies which tries to innovate and embrace the employee's thought process altogether. So you would be able to see that the company's values and culture are so intrinsically bound, so intrinsically created altogether that it's a reflection of the company's thought process altogether. It's able to move forward with such an amount of commitment and growth that everybody who joins the company will also become a part of the system altogether. So that is why the vision statement must reflect your culture and values. Should be aimed at positive growth. Definitely yes, because if you have a negative sounding statement, or a derogatory statement or a diminishing statement, automatically the value of the company will come down, the hope and trust of your shareholders will come down, and you will feel that why am I doing a company, why am I running a company like this? So the most important part of the vision statement is that the statement that is being given, the process that is being given has to be a positive definition altogether. It defines the company's future reason for existence. Today, if I say that I want to be a part of a company or I want to be a part of an organization that has some future in it. Most of the time, let me tell you, in India, when people join government organizations like railways, or when you talk about public sector banks, or when you talk about public sector manufacturing industry, many of the employees are not really bothered about the vision, mission of these companies. Why? Because we just believe that the vision or the mission does not matter to us as long as our job is secured and as long as I'm able to get a salary. But just think from the founding part of the company, from the management standpoint. If you think that your organization has to stand for the next 100 years to come, that means you need to be futuristic. That means you need to be in such a manner that you are able to create a value for the organization in the long run. Then only the shareholders, the promoters, the investors will take a stand, will come forward, will show interest in you and will believe in you that this company is supposed to be the most innovative and sustainable company. But if you just think that it's all about just job security, just paying the salary and just maintaining the employee altogether, then you are not creating a futuristic sense in the organization. So the reason for existence should have a meaningful purpose that can create a great value among all the employees, among all the suppliers. That is basically your micro and your macro environment needs to be satisfied. Now, moving forward, the mission statement. What is the mission statement all about? So when I'm going to talk about the mission statement, am I just going to write it in one line? Definitely not. I'm going to say it tells about the company's objectives, goals, and how will they achieve it. Now, this is very, very interesting. Mission is all about the operation factor. Now, that is quite interesting to see that when I run an organization which has got hundreds and thousands of processes involved in it, I am a part of the organization which has got so much to run with it. But then, what am I really doing to achieve the goal as far as possible? Today, if I'm running an organization which has got, let's say, about 10 or 20 odd process, all the 10 or 20 odd process is directed towards a common goal in terms of achieving operational excellence. So suppose you are an organization where the objectives, the goals are not being able to met, then your immediate mission is not being achievable. Mission talks about what you want to achieve in the near run altogether. So if your mission is trying to concentrate on something which is outside the scope of your operation, outside the nature of business altogether, then automatically you will not be able to achieve it. So what is our short-term goals? What is our short-term objectives? How we need to achieve it? How we need to go about it? That needs to be taught very, very clearly and executed by the company so that they are able to take it forward and run the organization. Now, when you look at Infosys, probably they will have a long-term value building altogether. That's how they grew as a company. But then their near-term goal is always to satisfy their clients, provide the necessary objectives that they have promised, and they deliver what has been told to their customers. So they would try to concentrate on their business activities from a mission standpoint rather than just contributing and concentrating on the principal standpoint. So that's where mission becomes a very, very important factor here. Unless and until you understand the mission factor, you will not be able to go forward and run your company successfully. Now, moving forward, how to write a mission statement? Very, very interesting. The business of the company, that has to be first highlighted. Who the company serves, their reason for existence, and how they go about to their day-to-day work. Now look at the 4 factors that we are trying to talk about here very clearly. What is the business of the company? Now let's take, for example, Infosys itself. So if I'm going to take Infosys as the company here, Infosys business is into information technology, enabled services, and software development altogether. So that's the nature and business of the company. Whom the company serves, the company will serve hundreds and thousands of clients across the globe in different verticals. It might be in banking, financial services, it might be in chemicals, it might be in aerospace, it might be in defense, it might be in FMCG, or we might be trying to serve in the automotive segment. But then what is the company trying to do is that it is trying to serve all those clients equally by understanding their values, understanding the importance for growth altogether. So they are serving a diverse list of clients across the globe as far as possible. Followed by, what is the next important reason? The reason for existence. Their reason for existence in the market comes from the question because they are trying to serve the purpose of innovation. They are trying to serve the purpose of providing quality software automation business that will help the clients to improve their business. So that's why the reason of existence is there as a company. Followed by, how do they go about their day-to-day work? Every time they try to find a process, they try to build a software, they undergo different types of testing, they undergo different types of coding and all those platforms so that they are able to give their clients the best of the best as far as possible. Now, moving forward, the global integration of the business scenario. We all know that business has undergone a lot of change in India, although there are several factors responsible for it. These days, business has become highly integrated, highly evaluated altogether. And the reason for it is that after the year 1991, we have been talking about a very, very specific factor called as LPG, that stands for liberalization, privatization, and globalization. These are the three primary components or crucial components which I would like to talk about that has been there and that has been doing a lot of changes for the business environment. Now, if you look into the global integration itself, why is this coming into picture is that India is no more an isolated country which is doing business with very few people or with very few nations altogether. India has opened its door to the entire world, and everybody in this world is interested in coming to India, integrate their process, set up a manufacturing hub here, and start growing further. So that means India becomes a very, very important part of the integration story. So that is very, very important here. That is becoming of a vital nature and importance, which tries to build up, which tries to step up the entire manufacturing process. So going forward, every country will become integrated and highly complicated and dynamic in terms of combining all the forces of management, all the forces of environment, and create a global village or a global hub for doing conducive business. Moving forward, the background that is needed here is that the government's priorities after the year 1947 was completely changing, and we needed a social upliftment altogether. So today the economy was largely agrarian and industries were very scarce at that point of time. So after 1947, if you start looking at the business environment of India, we were slowly trying to progress towards the public sector unions, towards agriculture and other factors. After which, we also started concentrating towards the building of nation. Now, that is the background what you need to learn in business integration. Why? Because we did not suddenly jump into business integration just like that. We did not suddenly become a global nation as far as possible. We became one when we started thinking that yes, there is some positive need. Yes, there is some positive growth that is intended with us in terms of the growth factor. So that made us to grow to this level as far as possible. Moving forward, the liberalization factor. What is liberalization? Every government tries to restrict impositions in terms of doing a business, in terms of making it as far as possible. They try to make things compulsory, saying that you have to follow these rules, you have to follow the system. Without this, we are not going to allow you. So similarly, India was one country for doing every kind of business. You needed to have a license. Now, India started thinking after 1991, let us abolish this license altogether. Let us open the market as far as possible so that when we remove all the unnecessary formality and licenses, business will become even more dynamic, even more interesting as far as possible. Let us get into a picture where we can bring in better governance rather than regulation factors. Once you bring in better governance, once you open up the market, once you become liberal towards your customers, towards other nations, automatically business will improve, and this will help to increase the export. So that's where liberalization came into picture. Followed by, when we talk about privatization, it simply means that allowing private companies and players to conduct business. This did not happen in India before 1991 because it was all government-controlled industries. Only government was controlling every single sector in India, and not every private company had the opportunity to do business. But after 1991, we all understood the importance of doing business, and government said that we are here to provide license, we are here to provide that facility. We will imply to withdraw back the control from the other companies altogether, from the government institution, and allow the private players to play. So privatization is giving importance to the private sector and reduce the interference with the business, reduce the control with the business that the government was doing. Followed by the globalization. This is a quite known story for all of us. All of us wanted to become a global factor. So India's economy before 1991 made it over dependent on local companies. But after 1991, we started becoming a country which has started working with all foreign countries. We started showing our dependency, our growth with other countries, so that we could finally join hands together. We could finally become a global nation that starts accepting the standards and practices that is prevalent in other places. So foreign companies also started initially thinking that they could not even come here and work, but after the globalization process happened, even that was made possible, so we could join hands with other companies and work together. Moving forward, with this, we come to the conclusion of the second session on business environment. I hope and believe the information provided here is of high importance and value to you. In the next session, we would be talking about the value system in business environment. Until then, stay tuned, stay blessed, and stay enlightened forever. Thank you once again for joining me on this wonderful session.